Karen didn't knock. She didn't send a warning. She didn't even pretend to care. Instead, she stood at the curb in her navy blazer and pearl necklace, sunglasses on, arms folded, and nodded. That's when the water stopped. Inside the house, a 6-year-old screamed from the bathroom. The kitchen faucet coughed once, then went silent. The washing machine froze mid-cycle. And Karen? She smiled. Because this wasn't about unpaid dues. It wasn't about landscaping violations. It was personal. 3 days earlier, the family at 14 Maple Court had filed a complaint questioning how $87,000 in HOA community upgrades mysteriously vanished. They asked for receipts. Karen called it disrespect, so she pulled the one lever she thought would break them. She told the utility contractor the property was non-compliant. She signed off on the shutoff order herself. And then she made sure she was there to watch. What she didn't know was that the father inside that house wasn't panicking. He wasn't begging. He wasn't calling plumbers. He was making one very specific phone call. And before this week was over, Karen wouldn't be standing at that curb smiling. She'd be standing somewhere else, explaining herself under oath. While Karen adjusted her sunglasses and whispered to a neighbor, rules are rules inside that silent house, the father calmly hung up the phone. He didn't call a plumber. He didn't call the HOA. He called the regional office of the water utility. And then he called someone else. See, what Karen didn't bother to verify, what she arrogantly assumed no one would challenge, is that this neighborhood's water system wasn't owned by the HOA. It was tied to a federally regulated municipal supply. And under federal law, access to water cannot be terminated by a private homeowners association as retaliation or enforcement leverage, especially not when children live in the home, especially not without due process. Within hours, a utility supervisor was reviewing the authorization Karen signed. By evening, a compliance officer was asking one question: who told an HOA president she had authority to order this shutoff? Meanwhile, neighbors' phones started buzzing because the father didn't stay quiet. He posted the signed shutoff authorization online with one caption: "Is this legal?" By sunset, the post had thousands of shares. By nightfall, Karen's inbox was full. But the real problem? The water wasn't the only thing she had tampered with, and the paper trail she left behind was about to drain something much bigger than a family's sink. Before we continue, if this story is already shocking you, like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? By the next morning, the water was back on. Not quietly, not discreetly. A city utility truck pulled up in broad daylight. 2 officials stepped out. They didn't knock on the family's door first. They walked straight to Karen's house. Neighbors watched through half-open blinds as the same woman who had folded her arms in triumph the day before now stood stiff at her doorway, trying to control her voice. "This is a misunderstanding," she said. It wasn't. Because the father hadn't stopped with a viral post. He filed a formal complaint with the Municipal Utility Authority. He forwarded copies of Karen's signed shutoff authorization, and he included something else: financial records. Remember that missing $87,000 in community upgrades? The investigation into the illegal water shutoff triggered a secondary review of HOA authority and financial conduct. And that's when the numbers didn't just look suspicious. They looked deliberate. Transfers labeled emergency compliance enforcement, vendor payments to a contractor who shared Karen's home address, board approvals signed by Karen without quorum confirmation. The compliance officer's tone shifted from irritated to clinical, because this was no longer about a power trip. It was about misuse of authority, potential fraud, and retaliation. By Friday, an emergency HOA meeting was called. Karen arrived in pearls again, but this time nobody was clapping, nobody was nodding, and nobody was on her side. The same neighbors she tried to intimidate were now holding printed screenshots. The emergency meeting was supposed to calm the neighborhood. It did the opposite. Karen stood at the front of the clubhouse, binder in hand, voice tight but rehearsed. She tried to frame it as procedural enforcement. She tried to call the viral post defamation. Then the utility compliance officer stood up and read directly from federal guidelines. An HOA has no authority to terminate a municipally regulated essential utility service. Doing so as retaliation? That crosses into civil rights territory. The room went silent. Then the board treasurer, who had been quiet for months, cleared his throat. He confirmed the $87,000 discrepancy. He confirmed the vendor address match. He confirmed there had been no quorum vote authorizing enforcement actions. Karen's composure cracked because this wasn't a neighborhood dispute anymore. By the following week, she was formally removed as HOA president. A forensic audit was launched. The family filed a civil claim citing unlawful shutoff and retaliation. And the twist she never predicted? The father wasn't just a homeowner. He worked in regulatory compliance for municipal infrastructure. He knew exactly which laws she violated. Karen once stood at the curb smiling as water stopped flowing. Now she sat across from attorneys explaining why she thought she was above federal law. Power feels permanent until someone understands the system better than you. And sometimes the quietest neighbor writes the final chapter. If this opened your eyes, like, share, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from?